Hi, I'm Daniel. I'm a sleep physician, and if you have insomnia, this channel is for you. Today I wanted to talk to you about the 3P model. This is the most common explanation of why some people develop insomnia while others don't. And understanding this will give us a big insight into how you can reverse the problem of difficulty sleeping. Nice having you back here, and if it's your first time on the channel, welcome. Hope you find something of value here. Now, before we talk about this 3P model, which I think this is really important, and I think this is going to be really valuable. As always, nothing here is any specific medical advice, but just general advice and general thoughts that I hope will be helpful to anyone that hears this. And with that said, let's get right into it. So 3P model, consists of 3 P's, obviously, and those P's are predisposing factors. So that's the first P, predisposing. And then you have a precipitating factor or precipitating event. And then you have the perpetuating factor. So what are we talking about here? Well, some people are more predisposed to later on go on to develop insomnia. And some of those like predisposing factors are like an extreme sleep preference. For example, if you have a tendency to be like an extreme night owl, like you want to go to bed at 3 a.m. And it's been like that your whole life, like you have kind of an extreme sleep preference, or the opposite. If you're one of those people who, you want to go to bed at 6 p.m. and you want to get out of bed like, 2 a.m. or something like that, then you also kind of have an extreme sleep preference. So that is a predisposing factor, but I think more common ones are, having a tendency to worry, having a tendency towards anxiety, and also being like a little bit of a controlling personality, where you try to want to solve problems and have control of situations. That is also a predisposing factor. Now, that said, just having this like predisposing factor doesn't make you have insomnia. A lot of people have these predisposing factors, but they sleep well or reasonably well. So there has to also be a precipitating factor. Now, that could be really anything that's stressful. Classical examples are like, you lose a job, or you move to a different city or something like that. And that sets off what's called a sleep disturbance. So that, precipitating factor sets off a sleep disturbance. And sleep disturbance is kind of like, insomnia type symptom, but briefer. So you start having trouble sleeping, you wake up frequently, you have light sleep. And this lasts for typically, a couple of weeks or so, or until the precipitating factor has resolved. And I think the thing I really want to highlight today is that sleep disturbance is a normal reaction. Imagine from an evolutionary perspective, like, a couple of 100 years ago, we are living in very humble circumstances, and somebody in our village says that, we've heard like wolf cries nearby, and then, that makes you worried because they're threatening you or whatnot. It makes total sense that you have lighter sleep, that every little sound wakes you up, that you're on edge, right? So the sleep disturbance is normal. It's a physiological reaction. But, going back to that example, when people say, we haven't heard those wolves, it was actually, it wasn't a wolf, it was a dog, let's say. Well, then your difficulty sleeping should recede. When the precipitating factor is no longer active, you should, quote unquote, no longer have difficulty sleeping. And here's where the perpetuating factors come in. And I think this is where it gets really, really important as well. So, you have the predisposing factor, you have this precipitating event, and then your natural reaction now, when the stress is gone and you're still having trouble sleeping, is to like, let's do something about it. And I kind of talked about this yesterday, so I'm sorry if I'm repeating myself, but you're now in a position where you're like, I got to do something about my trouble sleeping here. So some things a lot of people do is like try to make sure you have enough time to sleep, go to bed early, try to take naps, that kind of sleep in, like catch up on sleep by sleeping a little bit longer in the morning. And then when that doesn't help, Then you try to take some melatonin, and then that doesn't help. You try to sleep with a sleep mask, that doesn't help. Then you're like, okay, I gotta get in like same time every night. You create a sleep kind of a bedtime ritual, and then that doesn't help, and the whole thing just escalates. And fast forward a year or 2 years, 3 years, it's still unresolved, and now you have chronic, ingrained, entrenched insomnia, which is obviously a terrible situation. So I think that the kind of two main take-home messages here are that having like a sleep disturbance is normal when something stressful happens, but the efforts of trying to solve the insomnia often is what actually perpetuates insomnia. So this, in a nutshell, is the 3P model, and I wanted to talk to you about how this applies to one of the viewers that has shared a lot of his journey on this channel, which is Mark. And I've talked about Mark on episode 46, 50, 56, and another one as well. I think it was 86 or 87. And basically what happened was Mark, went on a trip to Canada, and upon returning home, he had insomnia. And he tried, I think he tried some supplements. I think he was even on some sleep aids. And then he came across, cognitive behavioral therapy and implemented that. And, last we heard from him, and that was I believe 4 months or something like that after his insomnia had started, he was doing much better. Not completely out of the woods, not sleeping perfectly well or anything like that, but he's sleeping pretty good, not taking any sleep aids. And why am I bringing this up? Well, I think this highlights how coming across, sound advice early on is important. What I talk about on this channel, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, has kind of been viewed as something you use if you have chronic insomnia, but not acute insomnia. And one thing is clear to me. If you had trouble sleeping a week or 2 weeks after you had some stressful event, well, then you may not need to see a sleep specialist. But I think it's important for really anyone who deals with who works in healthcare to know about the principles of CBT, because if you intervene early and you educate people early on when they start having trouble sleeping, when it's gone 3 weeks or 4 weeks, I think that's when you have that golden opportunity of preventing chronic insomnia. So I think, just in the medical field, we need to kind of rethink how we approach insomnia and intervene earlier, much earlier. Hope this was helpful, and I want to say this, that I've gotten a few emails where people have said, I was hesitant about emailing you, and I finally got around to do it. Just email me. I really, really appreciate any questions, thoughts, input, anything like that. And that email, of course, is insomniainsight@gmail.com, or you can leave a comment here, and I hope to have you back very, very soon. And by the way, tomorrow, Martin Reed, who himself struggled a lot with insomnia and then went on to kind of discover CBT himself, and then went on to become an insomnia coach and is now helping other people, is coming right here to the studio. I am super excited about that. So hope to see you back tomorrow, and until then, take it easy.